Giants, these towering behemoths of myth and legend, have captivated human imagination for centuries. From Goliath of the Bible to the ominous figure of Grendel in Beowulf, giants have long been staples of folklore and storytelling, creatures that inspire both awe and terror in equal measure. But what if I told you that these giants might not be purely the product of our imagination? What if they're more than just myth, more than just a tale from the past to make us marvel at our ancestors' creativity? What if they actually walked the earth, their bones buried deep beneath our feet, waiting for the day when they would reveal their truth to us? Today, I'll take you on a journey into the evidence, the stories, and the artifacts that point to the possibility of giants in our own history. We'll explore the ancient texts, analyze mysterious skulls, and dive into curious newspaper reports from around the United States. Articles that hint at encounters with bones and bodies far too large to belong to ordinary humans. And along the way, we'll confront the question: are these just myths, or could they be pointing to something that our modern understanding has yet to grasp? Many of us have been conditioned to dismiss the idea of giants as mere fantasy, a concept for fairy tales or Hollywood blockbusters. We've been taught to view anyone who suggests that giants may have been real with a skeptical eye, thinking they're engaging in wishful thinking or entertaining unproven theories. And yet, there are countless stories from cultures around the world that recount tales of encounters with towering beings, legends passed down from generation to generation that seem to share similar themes and details. Is it possible that these stories are based on real encounters, on actual events that our ancestors experienced? Is it coincidence that giants appear in so many of our oldest myths, or is it a clue to a reality that science has yet to fully explore? Let's begin by looking at some of the ancient texts that mention giants, some of the earliest records that speak of beings of immense size and strength. The Bible itself contains references to giants, particularly in books like Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. For instance, there's Og, the king of Bashan, described as a giant and ruler of a people called the Rephaim, a group often associated with towering stature and formidable strength. Then, of course, we have Goliath, the Philistine warrior who stood nearly 10 feet tall according to some interpretations. Goliath was a giant in the literal sense, one who struck fear into the hearts of the Israelites until he was famously defeated by the young David. But what if Goliath wasn't an exception? What if he was part of a lineage, a people whose existence has been largely erased from our historical records? Not just the Bible, but many other cultures have their own tales of giants. Native American tribes, for example, speak of encounters with giant people who once roamed the Americas. The Choctaw tell of a race of giants who lived in what is now the southeastern United States. Similarly, the Paiutes have legends of a tribe of red-haired giants who, according to legend, were fierce and cannibalistic. Could it be that these stories aren't merely legends but accounts of real beings that once lived on this continent? And if so, what happened to them? Why did they vanish from the earth, leaving only these whispered tales behind? Moving from ancient texts and oral histories to tangible evidence, we find ourselves looking at artifacts like the Paracas skulls. Discovered in Peru, these skulls are a subject of ongoing debate. They have an elongated shape that is unlike any skulls we see in modern human populations, and while some argue that these are the result of deliberate cranial deformation practices, others believe there may be more to the story. Recent DNA analysis of these skulls shows that they possess unique genetic markers that do not match any known human lineage, suggesting that they could indeed represent a distinct group, one perhaps related to the giants we hear about in ancient lore. Skeptics remain unconvinced, attributing the unusual shapes to cultural practices, but even this explanation doesn't account for all the differences. So, could these be relics of an ancient race that has long since disappeared? Could they be evidence of beings who walked the earth with physical traits far beyond our modern understanding? As we move from artifacts to accounts of supposed discoveries, we start encountering even more intriguing evidence. Throughout history, there have been numerous reports of giant skeletons unearthed in various parts of the world. One famous case is the Giant of Castelnau, a skeleton discovered in France in the 19th century, measuring an astounding 3.5 meters, or nearly 12 feet tall. This discovery caused quite a stir at the time, with many claiming it was proof of giants. And yet, after the initial excitement, the finding was dismissed, labeled as a hoax or a misidentification. The bones, some say, were spirited away to an archive where they would be forgotten. But why was there such a rush to discredit this find? Why was it so important to remove it from public view? Could it be that this was just one piece of evidence in a much larger puzzle, a puzzle that, if solved, might challenge some of our most deeply held beliefs about human history? Then there's the case of the Smithsonian Institution, which some claim has a history of concealing findings that contradict mainstream beliefs about human evolution. In the burial mounds of Moundsville, West Virginia, researchers from the Smithsonian reportedly found giant skeletons measuring over 7 feet tall. And yet, there's no trace of these remains in any public record today. Some researchers and theorists argue that these discoveries were quietly hidden away because they posed a threat to the conventional narrative of human origins. Could it be that the idea of giants is so controversial that it must be kept under wraps? Or is there some other explanation for why these artifacts and remains so often seem to vanish from the public eye? In recent years, new discoveries continue to hint at the possibility of giants. From massive footprints found in the Himalayas to strange, unexplained artifacts in South America, the evidence keeps piling up, though it remains largely ignored by the scientific community. The skeptics continue to demand tangible proof, yet they often dismiss or discredit the findings that challenge their views. But should we ignore the growing body of evidence simply because it doesn't fit into our current understanding? So, as we journey through these stories and examine the evidence, what are we left with? Do we dismiss all of it as mere fantasy, the product of overactive imaginations and mistaken interpretations? Or do we keep an open mind, willing to consider the impossible, willing to question the limits of what we know? The debate over giants is far from settled, with compelling evidence and passionate voices on both sides. But one thing is certain: the idea of giants continues to captivate us, challenging our understanding of history, and inviting us to ponder the mysteries that lie beneath the surface of our world. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the world of giants. If you have your own thoughts or theories on this subject, be sure to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you're interested in exploring more ancient mysteries, don't forget to check out our other videos. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and stay curious about the secrets of the past.